Howdy everyone, it's Sam. I hope you're all doing really well. If you're new around here, I hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. And if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the Oh no, someone's hacking my chat. Oh no, this is just terrible. Oh no, it's my mum.
Yes.
Oh, she's hacked my chat again. How have you done this? Mum, hello. No, we can't hear you, unfortunately. But, Mum, just go Penrith. Give me the thumbs up. Give me the thumbs up. That's my dog, Ruby. She just wanted to come on here and show her serious appreciation towards Penrith. Go Panthers, she says. Oh, Mum, up the Panthers. Thank you, Mum, for hacking me chat for the second year in a row. Let's get stuck into it. Let's go. Fair dinkum. The gremlins just keep coming into the system sometimes. Again, thank you very much for all tuning in to this grand final preview stream for 2022. It's been a massive year, and I'm seriously grateful to be joined by Jack of the Big Cat Chad podcast and his better half, Victoria, who is a part of the Big Cat Chat podcast as well. Hello, Jack. And B, how are yous?
Good.
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really pumped to get into it. Now, to those who are not aware of the Big Cat Chad podcast, a link to their podcast will be in the description box below at the conclusion of this live stream. And look, it's Civil War this weekend. How are the tensions going in the household there, Jack?
We've been all right so far. Now that the team list has come out, I'm like looking at it. I went to talk about the team lists to Victoria a little bit earlier, and then I went, just gonna leave it for now, because we're very much all consumed in the grand final this week. That I'm trying to find reasons to not talk about it, so that we actually do talk about things other than the footy.
Yeah. And now just because we've never met before, and my channel are not aware of you as well. How long have you been a Parramatta supporter for? And I hear that you've got an accent as well.
Yeah. So I was born in America. So yeah, I can't say I've been one of those fans that's since birth or anything like that. Actually, I'm quite a late fan, to be completely honest. Like, it's funny, like you get some people who genuinely say, I've been waiting 36 years. And I'm like, I've been waiting 12. Like, it's actually not that bad. I mean, it's still not fun, but yeah, I moved here with my family, and I went to high school in Parramatta, literally across the street from the stadium. So if you're ever around the stadium, that high school right in front of it, that was my high school. So
wow.
I think, being there in 2009, just being surrounded by the hoo-ha of the grand final, and obviously the 2009 run and everything like that, I was like, what? Like, oh, what is this team? Like, I need to get invested, because my dad followed footy, but I wasn't like that into it yet. I think I had gone to like 1 or 2 games with him just for fun. When I was a little bit younger, but didn't understand a thing that was happening, obviously. And so then unfortunately, actually, Jared Hayne caught my attention. And so that's what got me like hooked on it. But I always like to say that, yeah, he may have like planted a seed, but it was just the game as its whole, like watered the flower and grew into the beautiful rose that is my obsession now. And so, yeah, so now it's basically my whole entire life.
That's fantastic, because I was just at Combank the other week for that Eels-Raiders semi-final. Did you go to that game yourself, Fee?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we went with my dad, who's like a diehard Para fan as well.
Nice. And so I drove around that high school area, so like I know exactly what you're talking about. That's wild. Now, also, just quickly, you two were in a very fortunate position to travel up to Townsville on Friday night, and there's absolutely no hard feelings. It's the other day, Victoria. So like, there's no hard feelings, and it's all good. But what did you think of Queensland, Queensland Country Bank Stadium? I ask as a diehard Cowboy supporter that's never been up to the joint before. What did you reckon of it?
Oh, okay. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. We were there in round 25 for the Panthers game. So that one was a little bit more of an actual Townsville experience, because we landed early in the morning. We went to this Australian
Billabong Wildlife Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Everyone go to Billabong Wildlife Sanctuary if you can.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we got to see crocodile feeding. Jack held like a snake, crocodile. I stood from afar and took the photos, all that sort of thing. But then we walked around, and they actually go all out like on game day. Like seriously, Sam, if you can get there, because they have this a little orchestra, I guess you could call it. Like they know one song, but they like all on the drums and everything like that down what is their main street? I can't remember what it's called. Flinders or something.
Flinders.
Yes.
Down their main street, and then apparently, because that's where their leagues club is, they do like a members walk to the stadium, and we made sure to quickly run before that happened, because we didn't want to get stuck in that. But then that gave us the chance to take in the whole stadium, especially because we accidentally went the wrong way, so we walked all the way around the stadium to get to our actual gate. But that gave us a chance to look at the whole thing. So round 25 was the real Townsville experience, but Penrith lost, obviously, and they played their entire New South Wales Cup team. So at least this time it was different, because it was obviously a preliminary final. We got to go away, my team won, and obviously for me, Jack wanted Para to win as well, and just in general for the competition that we were with, our group obviously wanted Para to win. But just the atmosphere was insane, because round 25, I think it would have been popping a lot more if it had been full strength Penrith, but it was still big.
Round 25 was a happy atmosphere. It felt like people were out having fun at a big bash cricket game or something, where there's not too much riding on it, because everyone's just celebrating the year that's been. Whereas the prelim was tense.
And I've never experienced, because I've never done Queensland for Origin or anything like that, but that's the only way I could have possibly have it kind of compared this, because it was 98% Cowboys fans. And it was so much to the extent when something happened for Para, not even a try, because obviously when a try scored, but say Cowboys knocked it on or something like that, it was just silence. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, is anyone clapping?
It was confusing. We were because we're seeing it happen, but the crowd's not reacting. So you don't have all the normal senses that you're used to if you go to rugby league a lot happening at the same time. So you have to concentrate on the fact that Eels just got the ball back or just got a penalty or something, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, sweet.
And I can't even remember what the moment was, but there was one moment where they had initially called Cowboys ball and it went crazy, and then they said no, it's Para's ball or something, and then just went silent again, and then it was just 10 of us went it was insane.
Wow. What an absolutely crazy weekend that you guys looked to have had. What an unbelievable weekend, because less than 24 hours later, you backed it up at Accor Stadium, didn't you, Jack?
Yeah. It was a very different experience to Townsville. It was a lot colder.
Rainy.
Yeah, a lot rainier. Twice the crowd. Didn't have half the atmosphere, though. That's just because it's not as good for atmosphere, Accor Stadium, as Queensland Country Bank is. Just quietly, that and Combank are the two best grounds I've been to. Just got to say.
Set. Yeah.
I think my Para bias makes me want to say Combank is better, but I think realistically, they're on par.
I think Combank I think is probably slightly better in that it's more covered, but but Combank's built to suit a few people. at Queensland Country Bank, you're like, this is the Cowboys Stadium. And it perfectly suits Townsville too. It's built for the conditions. But yeah, the prelim on Saturday, that was phenomenal. There were definitely some moments at the beginning of the game where the end that we were sitting in was as quiet as Queensland Country Bank was when Parramatta would do something well, because Souths could back-to-back. But the 25 times that we crossed over the line and then it got ruled a no try, we were all going crazy. And then when we finally got one that was awarded, we went insane. Then we got that second one right on half time and we were going absolutely off our nut. And then that second half was just a dream.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. V, did you have to hold back Jack from attacking Tane Milne after he knocked Spencer Lenu's block off?
I didn't quite realize how bad he had gotten it until he said later on, he was taking it personal. You would have thought he had knocked him out. But even as a neutral fan, I just don't like seeing that no matter who it is. By that stage, at halftime, I knew Penrith had won it. And so despite knowing that my team was playing Penrith, I still didn't want any Penrith player knocked out like that. It was just, you don't like to see it. So while I wasn't up there screaming, get off the field, all that sort of stuff. And I was just,
Jack?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was an extra word in that sentence.
Look, we'll censor it for you. It was the same sort of energy as all of CommBank when Nathan Cleary spear tackled Dylan Brown. That's what it felt like. It was just everyone going absolutely ballistic. Then add the fact that it actually knocked him out, and people were not happy. And as a fan of the game, I also wasn't happy. It was dirty. It was bad.
So rather than restraining me, she filmed me.
Yeah, exactly.
Incriminating evidence there, yo. Just quick question from Mr. Entertain House. Entertain House, hello. Thank you very much for tuning in. Where did you guys sit in Townsville?
It was Bay 112, which was actually kind of the side that has their corporate seats, but it wasn't proper corporate. It was their version of corporate was you have cup holders and it maybe had a couple more bars on that side, but it was definitely near the suites and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because we saw, who did we see?
Gavin Cooper.
Yeah, that's it. We saw Gavin Cooper and he stepped in front of me. It was very rude. I was, but yeah, so
he wasn't actually rude.
No. Yeah. He didn't actually mean to. He was walking and stepped right in front of me, and I was like, oh, and then realized who it was, and I was like, oh, never mind, go for it. But yeah, so we were on the 10.
Yeah, about the 10.
About the 10-meter line. Actually, really nice.
The 10-meter line down at the open end.
Yes.
Rather than, the double.
Yeah.
So you were sitting in the Cowboys members area.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were definitely the only para fans in that section, but we were right directly across from the para bay, the tiny little para bay. But we were surrounded by Cowboys fans.
Yeah.
But what was cool was we were then on the side and directly in front of where the game ended. So that wasn't the opposite side of the field or anything like that. It was that final, say 5 minutes where it felt like Cowboys had the ball for an hour. And we were what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And then obviously, when Bailey Simonson came up with that ball, that was pretty much right in front of us. So that was really cool, at least.
It was a great game, and Cowboys had their chances. They absolutely had their chances, but Parramatta Eels, their defense was absolutely insane. For that, in particularly that second half, and the Penrith Panthers, man,
mainly.
Exactly. So for Eels to be as tough as what they were, absolute credit, and they absolutely do deserve to be there. And I want to say that, put that out there as a massive Cowboys supporter. So I'm allowed to be initially disappointed, obviously, but I'm cool, totally cool, because I bawled my eyes out on Friday live on stream, man. I just couldn't hold it in, and I didn't want to do it.
It was honestly, it's such a weird game to walk away from, because all week at work, obviously I'm the Para fan and everything, and I've had everyone going, oh yeah, Para played so well. I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, what are you talking about? No, they didn't. That first half, like, was embarrassing in a preliminary final for, like, especially like a top 4 team sort of thing. That I at halftime was sitting there going, this is going to be like ugly now. Like, I really thought Cowboys were going to run away with it. And I can sit here like, and after the fact and say, like, I know in a lot of ways Cowboys dominated them. But like what ended up being weird and was just something that I've never like quite seen from Parramatta before. And that's the main difference of 2020 is they fought their way back and they actually earned that win. Where so many times it seems like they win a game, but then at the end you're kind of like, that was ugly. And even the Raiders game, yeah, they thrashed them, but they had that weird period where it was like, do you guys even know how to play rugby league? Like, what are you doing? Whereas this one, it was once Campbell Gillard scored that second try, it was like something in them that it was like they just went, this is in our grasp. We can win this. Like, let's do everything we can. And they just became this wall. Like, they would not let the Cowboys break them. And I think in every way, Cowboys dominated, but I think Parra just wanted it more at the end. And it was a weird thing to watch because I almost felt like dirty that Parra won because I want to be like, Cowboys were better. Like, I was like, I didn't want that to be a thing. And obviously there's the forward pass. We'll talk like all that sort of stuff. But it was just kind of weird because I was like, how do they win that game when they weren't better? Like, I was like, it's such a weird way to like look at it. But then I rewatched that final 15 minutes. I was like, no, they earned that. Like,
yep.
It was
I'm absolutely stoked for you. I'm absolutely stoked for every Parramatta Eels fan out there. Yeah, I really am. Now, also, if you're just tuning in, this is Jack and Victoria of the Big Cat Chad podcast, and Natalie. She was just so busy this weekend. She's the other co-host of the Big Cat
Scheduling
Chad
a podcast
podcast.
with her was like,
Yeah,
was so
I was going to ask her. And I'm going to ask you, Jack. This grand final week, it's just another week for you, isn't it? Just another week for you, isn't it? Eh?
We're getting used to these now. I remember 2020 when we made it, our first grand final in 17 years. I was so excited to see the text embroidery on the players' jerseys because you know it's a big game, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is real! This is happening! What?" And like, don't get me wrong, I'm just as excited now, but I'm just more used to that stuff now. Where I'm like, oh yeah, like the gold logo on all the things in the like week lead up to the grand final and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. That's right. And yeah, like I'm just like so familiar to it now, which sounds so weird to me because I've grown up with my team sucking. And I'm like, oh, there's so many like kids today that like are Penrith fans who have only known Penrith to be good. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. Now let's get stuck into the bloody preview of Grand Final day, right? So, let's get stuck into the very first game that is kicking off at approximately 1:30. It's Jack's Penrith Panthers taking on the North Devils in the state championship. And Jack, mate, can you please take us through the Penrith Panthers lineup for this weekend, mate?
All right, it's fullback Isaiah Iongi. I think I pronounced that correctly. So apologies if I didn't. Yeah. The wingers, Christian Crichton and Sunia Taruva. The centers are Robert Jennings and Thomas Jenkins. The 5'8" is Jack Cole, and the halfback is Kurt Falls. The props are Lindsay Smith and Matt Eisenhuth. The hooker is Sony Luke. The second rowers are Preston Rickey and Chris Smith, and the lock is Jermaine Hopgood. And the bench is Luke Summerton, Eddie Blacker, Liam Henry, John Faumu. And then the reserves are Mav Gaia, Dion Amuanatai, I believe. Herpa Puru, Ativalu Lasadi, and Nuai Puru.
Thank you very much, Jack. And their opponents this weekend, we've got Jack O'Hearn as the captain of the North Devils. The wingers are Jaden Corrigan and Matthew Milson. The centre pairing is Jacob Gagan and Tony Tamusa. The halves pairing is Connor Broadhurst and Tyson Gamble. The forward pack is Fico Pulavea and Jaden Stevens with Kieran Mosley in at hooker. the back row is Brendan Piakura, Lavia Pulu, and Michael Seo, and then the interchange and couple of reserves there: Liam Horn, Jerome Fabe, Sam Lavea, Lloyd Perrett, Moses Nuvao McGreal, and Tua Arlo Vaipulu. Jack, man, have you kept an eye on your boys in the New South Wales Cup this season? And boy, howdy, haven't they had an absolutely extraordinary year?
Yeah, I have actually. I show up for Penrith. Are pretty lucky in that all three grades are the one club. So when they can, they have all three grades on. Go the Panthers!
I'm being hacked again. Yeah, go on, Jack.
Yeah, I tend to rock up for all three grades, and so I watch them pretty much every week, every home game at least, anyway. And yeah, it's been an extraordinary season for them as well, especially with a lot of these players in this team are very much NRL quality. And we've seen it when they've come into the team and been just as good as the first grade NRL players. And I've always wondered, as a reserve grade team, is it hard to keep the sort of morale up of the team? Because I'm sure they're all frustrated that they're not actually playing first grade. But it seems to be one of those situations where the whole club as a whole are all on the same level. And that's why we've seen us win the under 18s and the under 21s as well as now the New South Wales Cup Grand Final, which we were at on Sunday. And that was a great game.
Yeah.
And it's just really exciting to see the entire club being like this, because I know realistically that as a fan of a successful team that we're going to lose players because it's a salary cap league. But it's just so nice to see these players coming through. And I'll watch every week and I'll be like, oh, Jack Cole, he's the next Matt Burton, and stuff like that. And it's just so excited to see players like this coming through. Sunia Taruva played a couple of games towards the end of the year, and we almost want him in the grand final team, especially with Taylor May out. And it's just been so exciting to see him for the past couple of years in New South Wales Cup come through.
Yeah.
And especially since the last couple of years have been disturbed because of COVID as well. And I believe our New South Wales Cup team were coming first when the season ended last year. So it's just so nice to see them rewarded for this. And I know as a club how important they take the state championship game, because they made it in 2014 and didn't really take it seriously and got embarrassed. But then when we made it in 2017, they really made it a focus that they wanted to end their season on a win. And so it's really good to see as a club.
So and just onto the North Devils side, Tyson Gamble is obviously in there in fullback, and Piakura is a name that pops up. But this team obviously is not to be underestimated. They won their Queensland Cup Grand Final last week. This is their second appearance in a row at the state championship level as well. Jack O'Hearn at captain, is an old captain, Canberra player as well. He graduated in Canberra as well. And it's really good to see him go around too. So, look, admittedly, I don't keep an eye on the North Devils, but we know this legend that the Penrith Panthers is that's building up. What was it? I think the New South Wales Cup side was decimated in the first week of finals, and they still won their first game because they were playing the Cowboys as well. What an extraordinary achievement, bro.
Yeah, that was a game where I didn't get to watch it because that was the day that we were out in Townsville. But having watched the highlights back, that was one of the more incredible performances I've seen.
Yep.
And it was very similar to a game last year where, do you remember some random round last season before the game all got moved up to Queensland? There was a round where numbers spiked in New South Wales for COVID cases, and the NRL players for a week had to go back into the hard bubble.
Yep.
And Penrith was versus Newtown in New South Wales Cup. And as a result, none of Penrith New South Wales Cup players that had NRL contracts were allowed to play because they couldn't be there with regular people, basically. And so they had to call up a bunch of players from the next division down below in Ron Massey Cup to verse the Newtown Jets, who were barely affected by it because they're their own club in their own right. and they only use a few Cronulla Sharks players, and they're a very strong team. Like, they won the last grand final there was in 2019.
Yeah.
And the team was down by like 18 points or something like that midway through the first half, and ended up winning like 40-18 or something like that. And it was from that moment that you knew there was a strong team. And so it didn't surprise me at all to see us do that to North Sydney in the finals, but it still delighted me nonetheless, because what an achievement by them, because it also affected the grade below, because those under 20s players had to then come up, and then that team was then filled by players from below that. And it was just such a nice thing to see for the club as a whole, to see both grades get a win on that day.
Yeah. I vaguely remember what you're talking about, man. Like, I'm pretty sure I recall what you're talking about there. Now, just as a quick tip, also, are you two going to be attending this Sunday at Accor Stadium?
Yes, we are.
You're both going to be there. Yeah, dude. Yes. So whereabouts are you guys going to be sitting?
Separate.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because we want to make it so that, one of us is going to be really happy and the other is going to be really sad. And if we're there next to each other, we're probably going to hold back celebrating because the other one's really sad. And we just don't want that to be a part of it. We want the other person to just enjoy it for what it is, rather than worrying about, the crying person next to them.
Vice versa. Like, it would be natural in that moment if it's not very easy to just shut off and focus on the other. But then the one who lost, then that just makes them feel worse, being surrounded obviously by all that sort of stuff. So I'm actually going with my dad, and Jack's going with his family.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, there'll be, with all due respect to the players in these two teams in particularly, there's going to be enough seating around the stadium where maybe, V, you can sit with Jack and watch the Penrith Panthers win the state championship this weekend if you guys are going to get there early enough.
I'd be more than happy to do something like that. But yeah, once it comes to the big game, goodbye.
Yeah, and similar for me with her team in NRLW, of I don't like Parramatta, but I want Parramatta to win that game, just because I wanted to have at least one win on the day,
Yeah. That's really good of you, Jack.
No, I'm so nice.
Dude.
Zara,
dude, for sure. Now let's move into the next contest, and that's a nice segue there, matey. NRLW, Newcastle Knights hosting the Parramatta Eels. The bookies have the Newcastle Knights as $1.58 favourites to the Parramatta Eels $2.40. Jack, can you please take us through the Newcastle Knights 1 to 13, please, man?
Okay, so fullback is Tamika Upton. The wingers are Kiana Takarangi and Aminata Paki. The centers are Shanice Parker and Bobby Law. The 5'8" is Kira Dibb, and the halfback is Jessie Southwell. The props are Caitlin Johnston and Millie Boyle. God, that's a good front row, isn't it? The hooker is Olivia Higgins. The back rowers are Romy Tietzel and Yasmin Clydesdale. And the lock is Kayla Romanuik.
And just
the
that.
bench,
Yep.
The bench, Emma Manzelman, Taylor Predabon, Simone Carpani, and Mackenzie Wheel. Then the reserves are Caitlin Moran, Kyra Simon, Tiana Davison, Jessica Gentle, and Tasman Barber.
And V, of course, may you please take us through the 1 to 17 of the Parramatta Eels, please.
I'm so bad with pronunciation. I'm actually genuinely so scared, because everything I usually watch most of the games, I have to watch them muted, because usually I'm out and about. I was at the New South Wales Cup Grand Final, and so half the names I haven't actually heard pronounced, so it actually freaks me out.
Well, you're gonna have to give it a go.
Oh, okay. Also, I have an American accent. It always just sounds worse. Oh my God. Okay. All right. At fullback, who got voted Rookie of the Year for the RLPA awards, which is huge for her, is Gail Browden. Second is, sorry, can I just do 1, 2, 3? Yeah, I'm just doing that. Zali Faye, Abby Church, Rikia Horn, Casey Tohiku, Ashley Quinlan, Taylor Preston, Kennedy Charrington, Brooke Anderson, Ellie Johnston, Christian Pio, I think it is, Vanessa Foliaki, Oh, help me, Jack.
Samina Taufa.
Yeah, thank you.
She's the one from the ad.
No, I know. I just can't do it. I'm so bad.
And just the last overlay there, please, V.
Yep. I was gonna say Philomena, but I don't think it is. I think it's Philomena, Hennessy, Sally Malangi. Oh, come on, man. What are you doing to me? I can't. Najvada George, Rima Butler, Ruby Jean, Kennard, Brooke Morgan Walker, Ruben Sherrington, Tiana Penitani. Oh, so she might be back. Okay,
Yeah.
and Tess Staines. I'm so bad. It's just my American accent.
No, well done. No, well done. Now,
I get roasted a lot for how I pronounce things. I'm like, God, I sound white. Like,
no, you're right.
I don't mean to.
No. It's all good. Now, Tiana Penitani, V. Now, she's the co-captain of the Parramatta Eels. She is under a huge injury cloud. Parramatta Eels won the game without her last weekend. You'd reckon that Penitani is going to play in this game because it is a grand final at all costs, or would you, V?
I don't know. It's hard because, like, I don't want to say they were fine without her, but that was, like, by far the best performance I've seen from Parramatta's women's team. Like, last year, they had their moments, but that was, like, genuinely a solid performance from start to finish. Like, they didn't drop off at all. They, like, I don't want to say they dominated the Roosters, but you know, they kind of did. And
they kind of,
they muscled up, and like you could tell it was aggravating the Roosters. Like Jess Surges was so annoyed at some stages, you could tell. And same with Kelly, like they kind of shut out Kelly, which was shocking for me. Like I just couldn't believe it. It was all around a very solid performance. So I kind of want to say, just for her sake, maybe it's not worth playing her because like, I don't know, like what sort of injury risk she'd be looking at if she plays and then aggravates it more or whatnot. I think I backed the team without her, but my God, it would help if she was in there.
It is interesting because, like, if it's the kind of injury where it's just about playing through pain, then she'll surely do it.
For sure.
But if there's the risk, I guess, of not performing her best and there being someone more capable or her aggravating, maybe not, because when it comes to the aggravating stuff, I feel like you'll find in NRL they'll be more likely to, because like they've already earned so much money where the earning potential of the women might be less. And so maybe she has to think about future earnings as well and maybe not stuffing that up with an injury.
Yeah, like is she even jeoparding her standard?
I feel like if there was more equality in the pay, which they're getting towards eventually, that it might be more likely in that case. But I feel like if it's just a pain thing, she'd go out there with one leg.
I don't know if it is that though, because when she went, like she got hurt and went off like 2 minutes later. Like it was one of those things where you can see it. A lot of them will get hurt, do everything they can to stay on because God, they only have such a short season that like what would be just like grade one can be season ending, which is like, so like obviously heartbreaking for so many of them and everything like that. So you often do see like they've got a little bit of an injury and they'll just keep trying to play it. She like, I think ran back into the line and was gone. Like she couldn't do it. So that's where I'm like, there obviously I think is a lot more to it than it would just be pain. But I don't know, maybe they can needle her up and kind of go, but I don't know.
I feel like there's still a better team with her in the team.
Of course.
Of course.
And it's like if they played that good without her, with her, if she's capable of performing, I think she just plays.
Yeah.
Because I think she'll be dirty if it's just a pain thing and they don't play her.
And also, like, I feel like, it'd be one of those things where, say, imagine they only go down by 6. You know, she's sitting there going, you know, what difference?
One of the best players in the world on the sideline.
Yeah. It's a tricky one, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a big ask. It's like all around. It's a big ask.
That could decide the game, honestly, whether she plays.
Yeah.
And credit to Abby Church and Raquel Horn. They absolutely were fantastic last weekend. And let me just put this out there as well. I don't know how you guys feel about this statement. Where the hell did the Parramatta Eels come from in this NRLW season? They were super consistent as so far as their tenacity in games, but they weren't really that good at some parts throughout this season. They beat the Broncos in that final round by 12 points. And then they beat the Roosters last weekend.
Yeah.
Where the hell did they come from,
I know.
Ben?
It was interesting. Week 1 against the Roosters, I was like, this is bad. Like they don't win a game. And that's obviously what seemed like it was on track. But they had like 2 back-to-back 2-point losses. And like the Titans game especially, I think really hurt them because they should have won that. Not to discredit the Titans at all, but they lost that game rather than the Titans winning that game. And I always feel tricky about saying that, but it just felt that way. Like Parramatta, like there was so many like moments where it was just kind of that split second decision making where you went, probably should have gone the other way, like that sort of thing. And I think that Titans game like snapped something in them. And it was then convenient that they had the Broncos after that. No one had them winning against the Broncos. And like, I guess it's easy when you're the underdog in that sense. And like, in that sense, yes, they still were fighting for a final spot, but it was a lot harder. Like they didn't just have to beat the Broncos. They had to beat the Broncos by a specific margin as well.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot to it. And they relied on the Titans losing by a specific margin. So it's like, it's not just a matter of just win the game, but it all kind of like worked out for them. And they obviously got together as a team afterwards. And when that happened perfectly, like that could not have gone better for us. Now let's go out there and prove everyone wrong. And I just hope they have one more let's prove them wrong in them. But I don't think they'll do it.
They went from no luck in the first few games to all the luck in the final regular season game. And then they earned that win against the Roosters. Like that defense was ridiculous because that was the sort of thing that like they were defending well in previous games. But then it went up a notch and they managed to score some tries.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
like it was interesting, like as well. And like you hear a lot of people say it, for so many of them, like, yes, they play rugby league, you know, as much as they can, but it's different when you're on this sort of level. And if they could just get more games under their belt, that lets a team grow and everything like that. And they managed to like kind of snap together some like cohesion right at like obviously the ideal time, but it also gave some of the younger, like less experienced players the chance to like get a different type of experience, you know, playing against, you know, players like Jess Surgis and Isabel Kelly, everything like that. But like, for example, like when I first watched, what game was it? I can't remember. I think it was the Dragons game. Zali Faye unfortunately did not have a very good game. And I remember going, ooh, poor girl. Like, oh, okay, I feel bad for her. She was insane against the Roosters. In my opinion, she was one of the biggest reasons they won that game, because when they were only up by 12, she had an amazing try-saving tackle. And then they ended up scoring.
She's the winger, right?
That. Yeah, she's the winger, yeah. And that sort of thing is so huge in like every like level of rugby league. And it was just really good to see because, against the Dragons, she had this horrible drop ball, horrible like pass, all that sort of stuff. And it was kind of just like, you could just tell if she could get a couple more games under her belt, a little bit of momentum, she was going to come too. And then I don't think ended up scoring a try, but she almost had a try or something like that. And I was like, I don't know. It's those sort of moments you're actually really happy for them.
And there's so many other storylines as well for the Parramatta Eels that it makes this season so incredible. Like the Gail Broughton kind of shouldn't even be there because Batil Vetty Walsh did her ACL, and she should be there. Maddie Studden was the original halfback last season. She's not there. There was a brand new halves pairing in round one. The halves pairing is now completely different. There's been almost no continuity up until these past 2 to 3 weeks. And for them to be there on grand final day, it's a credit to the coach, Dean Witters, man. Yeah. He has done so well with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I think were we there for, I think Gail's whole family was there. Was that Dragons one? Yeah. She scored, and her whole family was like going crazy because it was just like that whole thing. Like, she shouldn't really be there if it wasn't for a torn ACL, and now she's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, she's been accelerated so quickly into it.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I usually hate when people do this because I want them separated. But she reminds me of Gutherson at times, like just the way she like holds herself, the way she runs the ball, everything like that. Like she is a fullback, like for sure. And she had this one run on the weekend that I was just like, all right, settle down, Gutho. And like she said it afterwards. They interviewed her, and she was just saying, we want to win this for the team and for Parramatta and everything like that. She just holds herself so well. Like, I can't believe in like such a short season.
She spoke so well.
I've just gone to be like, it's so tricky because I also, but I'm like, oh, but I love you both, can't you? What are they going to do? I don't know.
And look, I get where you're coming from with that, because Gail Broughton, she's not a flashy fullback, and right, neither quite is Gutherson as well. So no, I completely understand where you're coming from with that point of view. And also, just a shout out to Samaima Taufa. If she was to raise the NRLW trophy this weekend, man, like that puts her into the upper echelon of female rugby league players of all time.
She's such a leader, like in every way. And like not last week, maybe the week before, I think it was against the Titans, she had an amazing try, and you could see it in herself. Like, put the ball down, turned around, was like, let's do another one, that sort of thing. Sorry, I just clapped right into the microphone.
No, you're right.
Yeah, like it was one of those things where she's such a leader, and you can tell that they get around her. Like when she speaks, they listen, everything like that. And I would love it for her. Yeah.
And look, let's look. But there is a second team in this grand final, of course.
Sorry.
Newcastle. No. Newcastle Knights. Now, these Newcastle Knights were the wooden spooners. They didn't win a game last season, and they went and bought the Roosters pretty much, and a couple of bits and pieces from North Queensland as well, just quietly. And it was always a really nice pipe dream, a really nice thought that they could evolve that quickly and heavily, that they would appear on grand final day. And that's exactly what they've done. They beat the St. George Illawarra Dragons, the minor premiers of last season and grand finalist runner-ups, last weekend, and twice in a row as well. Jack, bro, is Tamika Upton, a question without notice, obviously, but Tamika Upton, is she the best player in the NRLW at the moment, bro?
Definitely in the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
I actually think a different Newcastle player is. I think, like, on form, Caitlin Johnston.
That's mine, Tim. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm obsessed with most of these players. Tamika Upton, definitely, but Caitlin Johnston is my favorite player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been like saying to you like the last couple of days, because you've been going, I think we'll lose. And I'm like, you thought they'd lose to the Roosters and you thought they'd lose to the Broncos. When you made me read out that Knights team sheet, whoo, you're right. They did a Roosters to the Roosters. They took all their players, but they found the right balance, because it's not always just about buying everyone. It's about getting the right players in for your squad and who you need and everything. And the improvement across that entire team from last season is incredible, especially when you think that was still this year.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've been struggling with that. I've been struggling with that phrase of that turn of phrase as well, all friggin' season long as well.
I keep
last
saying
season, it wasn't this year.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Also, like, you've got Romy Teitzel in there that was part of that wooden spoon team earlier this season. And yeah, she's a North Queenslander, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for her. But Romy Teitzel, like, she's been doing fantastic stuff. Emma Manzelmann as well, just won the Queensland Rugby League Hooker of the Year. Emma Manzelmann is one of my favourite players going around in the NRLW at the moment. This team is so stacked. But Kira Dibb, man, has got this freaking ball on a string, doesn't she, Jack?
Yeah. She is probably the best ball player in the NRLW.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where her teammate, she probably looks at her teammates and goes, you know what? Just defend well and I'll get us some points on the board. Yeah. And that's basically what happens, because they have, a very good back line, a very good forward pack. And you go, if you just get the ball into any of their hands in the right place, there's a try.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it countless times this season alone.
Yeah.
Like, they're probably, like, completely no stats to back this up. Are they one of the best attacking teams in NRLW, like, history? Like, some of those Broncos teams have been pretty good. But
Roosters this season were up there as well.
Yeah, that's true. They did finish first too.
Yeah.
Defensively, they are the second best defensive side in the comp.
It's like Newcastle, like, they're such an amazing like rugby league town, and the other Newcastle team have let them down for so long, and it's nice to see a Newcastle team like represent that town well. The fact that they're always showing up to games and everything like that, and it's been really nice to see the way that Newcastle fans have taken to this team as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's been one big worry for myself with every expansion side coming in is I hope the fans take to it, and they really have. And it's actually been nice to see, like, you know, I can say this about pretty much all of the NRLW teams except maybe the Broncos, just because I'm sick of them winning it every year. Thank God it's been 2 years in a row now, or 2 seasons in a row without. That I look at all of them and I go, I don't have the same hatred for you guys that I do for your NRL equivalent.
Yeah.
Perhaps because my team isn't in there. So I can look at these clubs and see all of the positives rather than trying to look for a negative. And it's one where I'm going for Parramatta in this game because I'm like Western Sydney thing, Victoria thing. But if, you know, Victoria didn't exist, then I don't know who I'd be going for. I'd probably just hope it's a great game, to be honest.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you what, just to go off the back of that too. Look, at the moment there are like rumblings in Newcastle that town is starting to get a little bit sick and tired of Kalen Ponga, and I don't want to go too much far down that track. But I'll tell you what, you can point your attention this weekend to someone like Millie Boyle, who is steely as hell, man. Like Millie Boyle last weekend absolutely dominated. Do you think, in your opinion, I know there's so many players across the paddock, and it's another question without notice, but do you think Millie Boyle is the player that the Parramatta Eels need to focus on, or would it be someone like Newcastle's fullback?
It's tricky because, like, the real answer is you can't pick one. That they're around the park. Millie Boyle is definitely up there. There's absolutely no way that they've been sitting there ignoring her. But, you know, like you said, Upton is obviously a huge threat. There's a couple out there, and that's where, like, teams are so dangerous when there's genuinely a lot of potential threats. And, like, I think that's what is, like, actually really nice to see about even both these teams. You can't pinpoint one player that makes or breaks this team, which is exactly why I can't say that if Tian doesn't play, you know, whether that makes that as much of a difference or anything like that, because each team has like a couple of different players that like really, really matters for Para. For Para or Newcastle or for success in general. And so, yeah, Boyle is up there, but she's definitely not the only one.
Yeah, that's got to be the Australian like front row pairing at the World Cup. Surely is Johnston and Boyle. If it's not, the coach has rocks in their head.
No way.
Like, because I think you're right. Like, it's really a strong team like that where if you focus on one, another one's going to get you.
Exactly.
Like, all due respect to the Broncos, but if you shut down Brigginshaw, you're a great shot at winning that game.
Yeah.
Whereas Newcastle and Parramatta, they'll get you somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, a tip. Who are we tipping in this game, guys? Starting with you, Jack.
I'll go Parramatta by 7.
Okay. And V, who you going for? Who's your tip?
Nah, I'm going Newcastle by.
Oh no!
That's a Parramatta fan right there. That is what they are.
I'm not going for them.
No, but this is what I call Parramatta-itis. It's this disease that Parramatta fans have where they've been burnt so much over the years that they can never truly believe that their team has won a game. When we were flying back from Townsville, we were talking about the game, and she goes, "Oh yeah, well I knew we were going to lose." I was like, "But you won. What are you talking about?" Yeah, but I knew we were going to lose. You were wrong.
You have taken this quote out of context. I was saying that I knew I'd be okay if they lost because I knew they were going to lose. That idea, like when you go into a game confident, it hurts more when you then go on to lose. But if you go into a game not confident, it means more when they win.
And that is the reasoning that I have heard from every single Parramatta fan I have ever talked to. They are all like it. So just, yeah, I'm not surprised she tipped the Knights.
No. Well, for me, I'm actually going to back V. I reckon Newcastle Knights, that team is, well, it's on the verge of something special, especially if they win the competition this Sunday. That's for sure. So we've got 2 for Newcastle, 1 for Parramatta. Let's see what happens in the main event. Guys, it is time. This Sunday, the Penrith Panthers, NRL side, take on the Parramatta Eels. The bookies have the Penrith Panthers at approximately $1.35 to the Parramatta Eels $3.10, and that's on Sportsbet. And Jack, man, can you please take us through the Penrith Panthers lineup that was announced today?
Okay, so the fullback, 2022 Dally M winner Dylan Edwards. The wingers, Charlie the Ferrari Staines and Brian To'o. The centers, Isaac Tungor and Stephen Crichton. The 5'8", Jerome Luai. The halfback and 2022 Clive Churchill medal winner, Nathan Cleary.
Yo.
The front rowers, Moses Leota and James Fisher-Harris. The hooker, Apisai Coruscant. The back rowers, Viliami Kickout and Liam Martin. And the lock, Isaiah Yeo. Now for the bench, the great Mitch Kenny in the 14, followed by Hot Scott Sorensen, Spencer Lenu, my hero, and Jamin Wheat-Gutted Dog Salmon. Then the reserves are the SOS man, Sean O'Sullivan, Matthew Eisenhuth, future Parramatta player Jermaine Hopgood, rookie sensation Sunia Taruva, and the astute man Chris Smith.
Thank you, dude. And V, can you please take us through the Parramatta team, please?
I want to hear nicknames of this too.
All right, fine. At fullback, we've got the King Clint Gutherson. Wingers, I don't know if this is actually how they'll play on the wing, but we've got Micah Sivo and Wonga Blake. In the centers, we've got Will Penasini and Bailey Simonson. But I'm pretty sure it all gets flipped around. But anyway, 5'8", we've got Dylan Brown, and 7, we've got Fresh Daddy Mitch Moses. 8, we've got Regan Campbell Gillard and Junior Paulo partnering him Paulo. Partnering him with Reed Marnie at hooker. Second row, we've got the second rowers of the year, Sean Lane and Isaiah Papali'i, with Ryan Madison named at 13, only to drop to the bench as he has every game for the last month. But then in the 14, we've got Nathan Brown. 15, we've got Jacob Arthur. 16, Oregon Kafusi. And 17, who will most likely play at the lock, Murata Niokore. 18th man is Bryce Cartwright. And then the reserves are Makahizi Makatoa, Tom Opachik, Afahiki Ogden, and Kai Rodwell.
V, straight off the bat, Nathan Brown. Are you a fan of it or not?
I'm kind of like neutral. I don't dislike him. I'm not like annoyed that he's been named or anything like that, but I'm also not like, oh, thank God. You know, I'm kind of like, a part of me is a little bit like, I'd rather he not shift up the bench 3 times in the finals, but I'm happy it's Nathan Brown if it means it's not Bryce Cartwright. So,
right. And what about Makahisi Makatoa? So if it's not Bryce Cartwright,
I would rather it was Makahisi Makatoa, if I'm completely honest. Just because I think he's the future, whereas like Nathan Brown has literally been told that he can look elsewhere and that he's not wanted, and now he's come off an injury and hasn't played in a while, and they're like, here you go, now you can have your chance. Whereas Makahisi Makatoa was 18th man on Friday night, and he didn't play. He did play week 1, didn't he?
Yeah,
he played week 1. So yeah, I don't know.
He played week 2 as well, Makatoa.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. It's just a bit odd to me. For me, I don't see how Makatoa has done anything worthy of being dropped, considering all total he got about 20 minutes across 2 games.
Yep.
So I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But as well, I don't want to sit here and complain about a bench when it's clearly worked for the last month and it's gotten us to the grand final. I just obviously I worry because it's against Penrith, who have some. It's not even just Fisher Harris that you have to worry about, or it's not even just one specific player. Like Spencer Leniu had his best game of his goddamn career on Saturday. Like that's a guy who we've been roasting for playing 15 minutes all season, and all of a sudden he goes out there, scores a try, almost scores a second. Unfortunately, had his head taken off, but he was such a threat coming off the bench, and we all know what a threat Sorensen is. And so I wish we had double the threats. Whereas, like, I agree with dropping Madison to the bench because at least he comes on, he always plays strong and plays solid minutes, but we don't have that second player who can do the same thing. Because even Kafusi doesn't get the same sort of minutes he should get. And I don't know, it ends up kind of being one of those things where I just wish for this one we could play a four forward man bench.
Well, that's it. Thank you very much for answering that question for me. Jacob Arthur as well. Like, you could have Makatoa on there instead of Jacob Arthur.
Yeah.
Are you going to be happy knowing that in all likelihood that you're only going to be using 3 of the 4 on the interchange bench this weekend, and wood that nobody gets injured? So are you happy with that?
I'm not happy with it, but if they win, it's not even a factor. But if they lose, and I can sit here and say that I thought the only reason was that they were outgassed, that they were gassed and outplayed it by purely like a physical sense of that, then I'd be pissed, because I don't fully understand it, only because previous Penrith games, he went with a 4 forward bench. And so I'm a little bit like, okay, well, why not do that again? You know what you're up against. Like, you're up against what, like I say, is the most dominant forward pack in the NRL. And I think when they are at their best, Parramatta are a very solid second. But, you know, what if we lose Polo to a HIA or Campbell Gillard or anything like that, or Madison? Unfortunately, Madison is a chance. Or if someone else goes down and then say we lose like Niokore to shift to the wing or to the center or something like that, then I go, cool, now we've got Jacob Arthur, who, like, with all due respect, really nice kid, everything like that, he offers nothing. He honestly is just a body. He just fills a spot in the 17 that could have been filled by someone who I think offers more in at least like forward ability, whereas I think other players are more capable of shifting utility wise, because worst comes to worst, Madison can go in the halves if he has to. He has played as a half before. So say you shift Madison to the halves, then you shift players around and at least you've got a forward. You're never losing a forward. But in like this circumstance, Jacob can only play as a half. And even then it's not a very good one. So it's like
Jack, man, do you think that the interchange bench is going to remain the same, or do you think Brad Arthur is going to tinker around with it, mate? And what's your opinion on the interchange bench?
I think he's going to keep it the same. It's interesting because
the lineup.
Yeah, like I don't think it's the strongest 17 because I'm not a very big fan of Nathan Brown, and I think Makahisi Makatoa is a better player. That being said, you're right. He's only been using him for like 6 minutes in games. And it almost feels like Brad Arthur is trying to name the sort of... We're seeing teams sort of go to a bench where you just have coverage for every position on the field because we live in an HIA era where Mitch Moses 2 weeks in a row had to go for HIA. So it ended up being kind of lucky that they had Jacob Arthur on the bench. But it then confuses me why Nathan Brown is then the option, because he is the kind of player that is becoming irrelevant in the way that the game has gone, in that you need dynamic, fit, fast forwards now. Like you look at the Cowboys bench or even their starting pack, you have players like Ruben Cotter who aren't necessarily a front rower naturally, and they wouldn't have been a couple of years ago. They would have been way too small, who now are a front rower. Penrith's bench, we have Mitch Kenny, who has been the last few weeks starting at hooker, and then when Appy comes on after 20 minutes, he's been playing at prop for a little bit. And then you have Scott Sorensen, who's a back rower and comes on and plays prop for a bit if he needs to. And then Spencer Leniu, who, runs like an absolute maniac for 15 minutes and then needs to sit on the bench for the rest of the game. And then Jamin Salmon, who is a 5'8" centre who sometimes plays back row just to give Liam Martin a bit of a rest. And it's as if he's building that kind of bench. But if you're going to build that kind of bench, I feel like you almost need Bryce Cartwright in there, because he actually is a back rower and you need some cover for that position. Because if a back rower goes down, Ryan Madison's going to have to play second row. And that just means that you're weakening one of your more vital positions on the field in lock, because you then lose that rotation. And then that also takes Niokore out of the prop rotation, which affects Parlow and Campbell-Gillard. And the only issue is that if Cartwright wasn't such a liability, both on and off the ball, then it would be easy to pick him.
Look, here's my thing. Cartwright plays with no doubt this weekend if he didn't throw that stupid pass when they had just got in the 6 again with 15 out. I'm sorry, you can't do that in a grand final. There's no way. He's just unfortunately proven it time and time again. He's hot-headed, doesn't think, and doesn't actually see what's happening around him.
He's a nines player.
Absolutely. And he threw that sensational flick pass, highlight of the year for the team against the Dragons back in round 6, and thinks he can do that at any moment. Like, what was so infuriating is, had he not done that, their line was set. There was no reason for him to do that against the Cowboys. You just take the tackle, you play the ball, and the rest happens. It's like he's fighting for a contract at every single play. I feel like he got put into 5'8" too much throughout his career, that no one just sat him down and went, mate, you're a back rower. Play like a back rower. Look at Boyd Cordner. Like, he has that stuff. He had that stuff in his game if he needed to. But the main thing he wanted to do was, like, hurt the halfback opposite him. Yeah.
Bryce Cartwright doesn't have that in him.
Yeah.
Like, Bryce Cartwright isn't going to be any danger to Nathan Cleary or Jerome Luai.
Yeah. I think what's tricky is against the Cowboys, because of the conditions and just like obviously the forwards that we were playing against, what we needed off the bench was a player who was just going to run forward. And he just didn't understand that that's what he needed to do. Like, that's it. And so that's where I'm thinking the Nathan Brown conversation came in. It was like, okay, well, who can we have that's just going to hit up the ball for maybe a 10-minute period just to give Campbell-Gillard and Pollard that little bit of a rest? And I agree, it's Makahisi Nakatoa.
Yeah.
Of course it is. But I guess Brad Arthur has seen something that he doesn't like in Makatoa's game. I don't know. It's such a tricky one, because I can't even vision a single hit up he had, because he just hasn't been given any minutes. And at least that means I'm not sitting there going, oh yeah, remember the time he knocked on the ball? Because I don't remember that. He's been fine, I think, in the time he's played. He just hasn't been some dominant force because he's not been given the time to.
I also feel like, though, this game is going to be one that you're not going to win in a single play, but you could lose in a single play. Nathan Brown could lose this game in a single play. He is a renowned hothead. He hasn't played in, like, God knows how long. What are the odds that he runs out there and just tries to go all Tane Milne on someone?
This is the thing, though. A lot of people still say that about him. Genuinely, when was the last time he did that? He hasn't done that. And it's not just
he does have priors, though.
Yes, of course he does. But, like, so many players can have priors. That doesn't mean they don't change their game. Sean Lane also has priors of dropping the ball 7 times a season. I wish it was a season. 7 times a game. But
yeah,
he's turned his game around. Players can turn their game around. And Nathan Brown did turn his composure around. He just then lost everything
what
else
made him good. Yeah.
So, like, I'm not at all concerned that his issue is going to be taking someone's head off. In fact, I think he's just going to try to make sure Nathan Cleary doesn't try to take his head off. You know, he's got priors.
He's a grub.
No, look, I completely agree with you that Nathan Brown did rein it in for a little while there. And obviously he's had some to and fro's with Brad Arthur as well. Nathan Brown, and like he's just been living off of raw meat for the past 2 months since last time that we've seen him. And I absolutely, like, when he comes on, boy howdy, the whole, like, obviously the whole world's going to be seeing, watching, anticipating how he's going to go. I think he's going to make an impact. I think he will make an impact. But on grand final day, his first great appearance in X amount of weeks and/or months, is that going to be so much of a sensory overload that he is going to just have a brain snap like he is susceptible to? Unfortunately, he has receipts on that. So it's a fascinating selection choice. And again, we've got this entire week where he could change the side. And speaking of which, Tom Opacek, he was named on the reserves, and Bailey Simonson has been named out there on the wing. Do either of you two anticipate that Tom Opacek comes back into the fold this weekend, or did Simonson do enough, or no?
I thought Simonson had a great game. I was quite happy. The main reason I was happy was, for once, Brad saw what his options were, and he switched the sides around. So that's why when I was going through the lineup, I was saying this isn't how they'll field it, because they had Sivo and Simonson together, and then they put Penasini and Blake together. So previously, every other game, it had been Penasini and Sivo together. So they had one obviously dominant side, and then it was Wonga Blake and Tom Opacek, which, not exactly super strong. So when you had, say, like Petahiku and Valentine Holmes and the Kyle Felt, when you add all them, it was like, no, you can't have a weaker side. So they put Penasini onto the other side and kept and put Sivo with Simonson. So that will happen again, I believe, which eases any concern I have, because at least I know you've got someone reliable attacking wise and defensively on each side. But apparently Tom Opacek in the training run yesterday, he turned to the trainer and said, I've tweaked it again. And so I think they've put him to the reserves to say, like, we'll do everything we can to give him the chance. But personally, I would rather not even risk it at this stage. Simonson had a good enough game that I'm not sitting there going, no, we desperately need Opacek. And I really, really like Opacek. No offense to him at all, but he'd probably be one of the last players I'd say we desperately need. Like, I think Simonson can fill in as long as he has that little bit of coverage. When he's left by himself, that's when I'm worried. But if we've got Sivo outside of him, I'm comfortable. I'm okay.
Yeah, true. Now let's move over to the Penrith Panthers now. So, dude, Spencer Leniu again, one of my favorite players in the NRL at the moment. He's an absolute cannonball, wrecking ball. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jerome Luai goes this weekend. I don't know why. I'm getting a feeling that he had a really good game this past weekend, but I think Nathan Cleary is going to be so focused on kicking that ball towards Wonga Blake that Luai is going to be that player that is going to be a sneaky little bugger, and he's going to be putting his side men through a hole. Jack, man, who are the players for Penrith Panthers to be watching out for this weekend, in your opinion, mate?
Firstly, I think if you start from the number one, Dylan Edwards, I'm running out of things to say about him, because he's gone from just being a good fullback in great form to he's just a great fullback now.
Easily.
And I know that fullback is one of the most discussed positions, and people love to compare fullbacks. But it's starting to get to the point where if fans of other teams are going to start comparing their fullback to Dylan Edwards, they're not going to end up happy with what they see, because Dylan Edwards is incredible, and he gets our sets off to such a great start. And you know what? He actually helped someone like your man Luai. When you look at the Isaac Tungor try, Dylan Edwards returns the ball 50 meters from a kick by just evading 3 or 4 players. And then the next tackle, it goes to Nathan Cleary, who takes a quick run up. Then it goes to Moses Leota, who takes a quick run. And we're just on the back foot straight away, thanks to Dylan Edwards. And that just means that once it gets to the last tackle and they swing it left, it might have even been the fourth tackle. Jerome Luai just has space and he looks up and just puts in a little grubber for Isaac Tungo to run onto. And it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, sometimes it just takes one player doing something to get all the wheels in motion. And it was almost impossible for South Sydney to do something about that because they were out on their feet trying to tackle it. They had run all the way to chase a kick, and then they had to run all the way back to stop like 4 or 5 different plays of players just running direct at them because they spotted it and they knew the weakness was there. And I think that was also really key by Nathan, the next tackle, to do the same thing because it sent that attitude to the rest of the team because he's undoubtedly a leader for them of this is how we're going to play this set. This is how we're going to do it. Just straight up the middle and then we'll get them at the end. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing to see like those two in particular, Edwards and Cleary. But then I put in James Fisher-Harris. He is, in my opinion, the best front rower in the competition. And I think the other players in the conversation are Tarpany, but then the two that start for Parramatta. And so it goes, you go Moses Leota, a great player as well, but he almost, it's unfair to him, but he almost gets forgotten about when you look at these 3 superstar front rowers that are going up against each other. And especially when you think there's a bit of history with Campbell Gillard leaving Penrith on not very good terms and stuff like that.
It's true.
It's a massive job for this forward pack, and in particular, James Fisher-Harris. I think he has to play 60 minutes plus this weekend. And, like, he's capable of it. I've seen him play an entire match that went into Golden Point before. But grand finals bring that extra intensity. Games against Parramatta bring that extra intensity. And, yeah, we cannot afford to lose him. If we lose James Fisher-Harris to an HIA in the first minute, I feel like we lose. And there are not many, without sounding too arrogant, there are not too many scenarios in my head where I picture us losing. But a lot of it relies on James Fisher-Harris and what he does. Can you tell he's my favourite player? But then Api Coruscant, because he's been named in the 9, we know he's going to start on the bench the way it's gone the last month, including against Parramatta, which means, the immortal Mitch Kenny starts. And it's great the way, so he's technically not the same quality as Api, and he doesn't have the same like smarts or speed out of the ruck or anything, but he just keeps us going through and keeps us solid and throughout that softening up period. And as soon as Parramatta brings off one of Parlo or Campbell Gillard, Api's coming straight on and he's going to weave something in and around the ruck. And I wouldn't even be surprised if our first try of the game is once Api comes on and it's just like a barge over for Fisher-Harris or Leota or Sorensen or Martin or something like that. And he, he's the best hooker in the game at the moment, in my point of view. And this is his last ever game for us. And I know he's going to want to go out with a bang. Not too many hookers have won 3 grand finals, but he has that on the line. Yep. And yeah, if I could pick any single one, probably Api. Yeah.
Api Coruscant, man. I agree with you. He is absolutely the best hooker in the game at the moment. I would put him back on the bench because it was graphic how quickly, how intensely the game changed when he came on last weekend. What was it? It was 12-0. He came on. It was 26-0 after that point. It was ridiculous. The weak person, this is so easy to point to, and you probably already know who I'm talking about. Mr. Charlie Staines, man. He is still a very good player in his own right, and he's marking up on Mike Acevo. And unfortunately, he had Richie. he had Richard Kenner score a try on him last weekend as well, man. So if there is an edge that the Parramatta Eels would be licking their chops at, it would be Charlie Staines, who was going to be marking up on Micah Sevo. I do think whoever wins this weekend, I think we're in for a thriller. I really do, man. I don't see this being 13 plus either way. But I mean, what are your final thoughts on Victoria? What are your final thoughts on this contest this weekend?
It's interesting. Like, listening to everything Jack just said, I agreed with everything until like his final kind of point. I think dropping Appy to the bench is a big mistake, personally.
Okay.
And that's as like an opposing fan, even away from, if Parramatta weren't in this grand final or anything like that. I think it's a risk that I don't know if it's worth it, because I still step away from Saturday's game thinking Souths did that to themselves, because they scored the first 2 tries and they were. Jack made a comment the other day that I didn't necessarily agree with, saying that he didn't really think Souths did were that good or anything like that. I disagreed. In those opening minutes without Appy on the field, Souths were rolling. And yes, even though Penrith were crossing the line and everything like that, I thought that they were shutting down Penrith a little bit at different times and flustering Penrith at times. There was a couple little mistakes in there that are un-Penrith-like and everything like that. And I think that's where they were massively missing Appy. And if they drop Appy to the bench, if Parramatta can come out firing, because they'll have Paulo and Campbell Gillard fresh, what if they pile on a lot, but say they throw 2 tries on, I don't think they do what South did and then crumble, absolutely crumble. I could be very wrong, and I could be eating my words, but I'm kind of like, why play a chasing game? Like, that's one thing that we've always said, that we think with Penrith Para, it can usually kind of go one try, that sort of thing. So the last thing either team wants is try. Like, you don't want to have to chase 2 tries. And I don't dislike Mitch Kenny as a hooker or as a player in any way, but he's not Appy. And Appy is, I think, by far the best hooker in the game this season. And it took me a long time to actually see just how good he was. And in a sense, Ivan dropping it into the bench has helped me see it, because they aren't a different team without him, but they definitely don't have that same flow. And he doesn't just open up Luai, he opens up Cleary as well. There's so many different levels to what he does. And I think Kenny, for me, what he offers to Penrith is a lot different to what Appy offers. And I know that that's what you said. He had 2 phenomenal hits. Like, they were big shots, but that's not necessarily what you need from your hooker. And so that's where I'm a little bit like, I don't know. I think that could be the only thing that might help Para and Charlie Staines a little bit, just because he's on Sivo's wing. If he was on the other wing, I wouldn't even think about it, but it's just because it's Sivo's wing. So I think for me, I often feel this way, but the first 20 minutes are everything in this game. I feel like if Parramatta are clearly flustered, I don't think they turn that around, because against Cowboys, no disrespect to the Cowboys at all, but the Cowboys didn't make them suffer. Like, they didn't punish them. They should have punished them for the way they played in that first half. And I think a team like Penrith would make them pay. So I don't know. I think it's everything is kind of in that first 20.
Wow. Do you have a anytime try scorer, and do you have a final scoreline for us, Speed?
Now that I know it's Sivo on Staines. No, I even before, I think, I don't know. Honestly, the thing that scares me the most is I've never seen a Parramatta player in this team play a grand final.
Bailey Simonson.
Oh, yeah, true. Sorry.
And
they lost.
He played 9 minutes.
Yeah. They lost. So, and Ryan Madison, but I'm talking about this team. They haven't played a grand final. They haven't played the last 3 grand finals. It's like there's 2 different sides of it. Sorry, I know you just asked for any time, but I'm on a rant. There's 2 sides to this. You've got one team that has the chance to break a 36-year drought. I never try to discredit another team when I say something like this, but I think there's more to this for Para than Penrith. Back-to-back would be great. Absolutely, it would be great. I'm not denying that at all, and I'm not trying to say that they don't want it. I just think, Para are also losing players. They're losing Papali'i and they're also losing their hooker. They know that this is a different team again next year. You've got a coach that, as much as the board says otherwise, his head is on the chopping block every single season. If he can get a premiership under his belt, they ease off him a little bit, that sort of thing. You've got players that have been turning their lives around, like Sean Lane. Like, he would want this like anything. Different things like Moses. Firstly, financially, Moses gets more money if they win a premiership. But Moses has been ridiculed for years, saying he's not a big game player, and that game on the weekend wouldn't have helped. But I don't see him doing that 2 weeks in a row. So I think there's so much with this Para team that it could be another thing where, in every single way, they shouldn't win it, but they just won't lose it, and that they want it more. But then you've got the other side where Penrith are just simply better. And so it's like, what matters more, how much you want it or how good you are? And so I think that's where it comes down to. So I think I've got Micah Sivo anytime try scorer, but my gut and my head says Penrith. But I do think there is a chance that Para could do this.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. Jack, your thoughts about what could go down this weekend? Anytime try scorer and a scoreline, please, bro.
Okay. The thing is, like, we have tactically analyzed the way both teams play, the way they are at their best, some of the little faults in their team. There's not many faults with any team. I think on best form, they are the two best teams in the comp. It just seems to go out the window when these two teams play each other. I know it's a cliche, but it just happens. Weird things happen in this game over the past couple of years. We beat them by 1 point in front of 0 fans in a locked-out game where Matt Burton, who the last time he had to attempt a field goal, missed like 10 in a row, partnered by like Tyron May in the halves, That team shouldn't win a game. Then, this unstoppable Penrith team lost 2 games in a single season to Parramatta this year. It's really confusing because every part of me pretty much thinks Penrith win. But I have more than just that standard sliver of doubt that I might have, because I always go, Penrith's going to win. They might not, because it's literally possible for them to not. I look at this and I go, Penrith's going to win. But yeah, wow, they might not win. Parramatta are very, very good. And if any team can beat Penrith in this grand final, it's them. I still think Penrith win. I think it's going to be like 2 points or 4 points, maybe. This game's going to absolutely kill me. Like, I go to the doctor a certain amount of times each year and they look at my blood pressure, always come back normal. I guarantee if they checked during that game, they would be, rushing me to the hospital. Anytime try scorer, Viliami Kikau. I can see a forward scoring a try in this for Penrith. And just out of them, I feel like he's the more likely forward to score a try. I feel like it's going to be, we're going to shape for something out to the left, and Luai and Tango and To'o are going to be standing there looking for it, ready for it, and Cleary or Yo or Coruscant is going to play it short to kick out, who's just going to march through a hole, basically. I also think Sivo, but I just didn't want to copy you, basically. The only way we're going to stop Sivo is by cutting it off at the supply, getting in on Dylan Brown early. Because if it goes to Sivo, bigger men than Charlie Staines have been unable to stop him before.
The scary thing with Sivo is also then like the kick returns, but I think with Penrith that's not so much of a concern because he won't kick to block.
But then he'll take that first tackle hit up.
Yeah.
I think Penrith win. I desperately hope Penrith win. It's interesting because everything Vic said about Parramatta wanting it more made perfect sense.
Oh, yep.
And that was completely from a Parramatta point of it, rather than a Penrith have been there already kind of thing, because there's nothing in the way Penrith play that indicate they don't desperately want it. You see the intensity in defense. It's what this team's built on. It's what I'm so proud of this team for, is the way that they just like literally attack the opposition and strangle the life out of them. Yeah, man, I'm nervous.
I didn't say they didn't want it.
Yeah, no, you said they want it more. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very nervous for this.
Wow. Okay. I so want to see the Parramatta Eels win it. I'm going to tip the Penrith Panthers to win by about 6 or so points. Yeah. And look, I think all finals series, in every single game, there has been a prop that has scored. There has been a totally surprising forward player that has gone over and crossed the line. I'm going to go Moses Leota, an anytime try scorer on Sunday. Oh. Yep, I'm going to go Leota to score an anytime try. I think he's going to be in for a good one. But Jack and Victoria, thank you so much for joining me tonight. So, look, we're all tipping Penrith, but we all recognise and have said Parramatta Eels are going to be in this game up to their eyeballs, man. It is going to be such a cracking contest. Again, this is Jack and Victoria of the Big Cat Chad podcast. Links to their podcast will be in the description box below. At the conclusion of this stream, Jack and V, have a very, very nice, have a nice weekend, but have a good day as much as you possibly can without going grey in the hair on Sunday. Fair income.
Yeah, we'll try. You know, we'll enjoy it for what it is, but there'll be certain moments that neither of us are enjoying. I guarantee.
Oh, yeah. If I was a wreck on Friday night, but I can't imagine how you guys are going to be feeling halfway through that game on Sunday this weekend. Guys, again, everyone, go and check out the Big Cat Chat podcast. And just a quick hello to Natalie as well. Good luck to Penrith Panthers as well, and thank you to you, Jack and Natalie, for having me involved in your world throughout this season, man. And I look forward to 2023, bro. We've got to do something again.
Yeah, well, it was an honor to have you on our show. I know we both really enjoyed coming on your show for the first time, and I've enjoyed it the second time, just as I'm sure Vic has for the first time. And yeah, can't wait for us to do something in 2023. Yeah, it's going to be good. Hopefully a grand final show.
Have a very nice weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you, Jack and V. Alrighty, so there goes Jack and V. Now, Jack and V might have to log out themselves because I'm using my phone. Go on, Jack.
All right, how does this work? There's my mouse.
Alrighty. Jack and V of the Big Cat Chat podcast. Again, thank you so much for everyone that's tuning in right now. Really enjoyed the conversation. I really hope that the next few gentlemen enjoyed the conversation as well. These guys are just starting out on YouTube. They have created a podcast called The Final Siren Podcast, and I've never interacted with them before online, except for one of them. But I'm really excited to talk to them, and I hope you guys enjoy what they're about to bring as well. So without further ado, guys, Noah.
Hey, Sam.
Faraz.
What's good, bro?
And Lockie of the Final Siren Podcast, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sticking around in the green room. Guys, you've had a while now to check out the team lists, I guess, really have your thoughts ready to fire out of a cannon. Now, obviously, as well, just before we get into it, the links to the Final Siren Podcast YouTube channel will be in the description box below at the conclusion of this episode. But Noah, now, from what I understand, you are the brainchild of the Final Siren Podcast, or is it all Lucky?
I think Lockie and I sort of do a bit of co-hosting each, but first off, I just want to say on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for having us on. It's a huge pleasure to be able to be on, and we've wanted to for a while. So when we saw the chance happen, Lachlan and I had a bit of a discussion. Faraz joined in as well because he's obviously talked to you before. So yeah, thanks so much for having us on. But yeah, I'd say I'm mostly on the page. I think Lachlan is the one who brings in the viewers with his jokes. He's sort of the life of the party, and but yeah, I'm sort of just behind the scenes. But I wouldn't be able to do it without these two. I reckon they sort of run the show. I'm sort of just behind the scenes.
Not many Cowboys fans like me, but that's all right.
Yeah.
No, I like you, mate. No, I like the cutting jib, mate. You're honest. And what was it? Lockie, you were up there in Bundaberg for the Dogs and Cowboys this year, weren't you, mate? How was that?
Yeah, I was. It was good. It was definitely great, just especially for Bundaberg because the last game we had was 2016 or 15 for Broncos-Cowboys trial match. And it was pouring rain. It was an absolute mess. There was mud everywhere. But Sunday, it turned it on for Bundy. Heaps of people rocked up. I think it was just over 8,000. Yep. A brilliant game. The Dogs were up early, and then the Cowboys brought it back. It was just brilliant to see the players up close in a small town like us. We're only known for alcohol, basically, in this town. So it's good to actually see some footy. I met, I think, 38 players across the 2 days. I went to the Bulldogs training session, met all them. The Cowboys players were brilliant coming around, even though I don't like them. I still grabbed photos, and they're all great blokes. It was a brilliant day for Bundaberg.
No, awesome. No, and it did look like a good day. And Faraz, bro, how you going there, man? It's good to have you back on.
Yeah, cheers, Sam. Obviously, as you've known, we've known each other for a year. I've interacted with you on the late night shows on Nick from Australia. So I've been on your channel before and back in February for the Broncos Cowboys trial preview. So it's an honor to be back after a while.
No, it is really good to have you back on. And Noah, I'm sending out the SOS to you. Where are you, mate?
He's in the green room. He's messaged me.
All right, no worries. So Faraz, let's start with you now, man. We'll actually just an overall question to both of you. NRLW, is it something that you guys have kept an eye on this season? And how what do you think about the Newcastle Knights and Parramatta Eels this weekend? Starting with you, Faraz.
Yeah, I've actually kept an eye on it. Even if I haven't been watching the games lately, I've been checking out the scores and everything. I was curious to see how my Broncos are going to do without their two best players, Tamika Upton and Manny Ball, and obviously they missed out on the final for the first time in their history. As for the Knights, they still are best two players, and geez, they've been a different side. I think when they beat the Broncos back in round one, it was their first win in NRLW history, and they've continued that, and they've made the grand final. As for Parramatta, they've come from absolutely nowhere. I'm surprised that Broncos were even the favourites to beat them in the last game, considering the Broncos season. And then they knocked off the Roosters. I honestly thought, even though Newcastle were killing it, I thought the Roosters were the best side of the competition. I think they even gave the Knights a hard time in their regular season fixture. So, I mean, for the Roosters to miss out, it is pretty heartbreaking. But I've said this before, I always want to see a new winner. Even though my Broncos aren't there, I'm actually happy that, in the sense they're not there, it's good for the game. It's going to help continue to develop these teams and all that. And now that the Roosters, who won the comp last time, I mean, for Parramatta to come from absolutely nowhere to rely on results and to get the grand final itself, it really shows that any team can be beaten on their day.
Yeah, man. Lockie, is the NRLW a competition that you've been able to keep your eye on, mate?
I'm going to be brutally honest. A lot of people don't like when I'm honest, but to be honest, the NRLW doesn't interest me. I think there's something missing in the game still. We've touched on this in our podcast, but if you look at the likes of WBBL, Australian cricket in general, as Noah is on the Dodo Wi-Fi again, I think there's something missing. I think I've watched about 4 minutes total this whole season. Yep. I do know that, when the Broncos are going good, of course I tuned in then. But I think going off this game, from what I know, who I've seen, I've got to back the Knights. Millie Boyle, I think she's you could probably say the best player in the game, so to speak. Tamika Upton, absolutely, another brilliant player from Broncos, and I've heard of the few names out of Newcastle as well. But for this one, I'll have to back Newcastle from what I've seen on the team list and what I've heard this season.
That's what, no, yeah, and you're perfectly entitled to your opinion, man. And you didn't speak with any disrespect at all just then, man. So no, you're okay there, man. But may I ask you a question without notice? Obviously, if Bulldogs got an NRLW side, would you keep an eye on them?
Even like, I think how many teams there? 6.
6.
At the moment, yes. 10 next year.
I think it just gets a bit repetitive. Like you always, and also as I said as well on the podcast, I think the triple headers on a Sunday isn't the hit. It's not how to get the fans. I think they need to do a Friday night game as a curtain raiser to maybe a Roosters Storm, like something like that. They need to get fans to the games as well. Otherwise, the attendance on the TV. But I definitely, if they get more teams in the comp, of course, more people are going to tune in, and I'll probably give it a watch. I support the Broncos in the NRLW as well, but it'll be brilliant to see the game expand as well.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I really wanted to find out what Noah was saying, but that Dodo Bird struck me pink. He hasn't been subscribed to the Dodo Bird internet connection for a couple of months, seemingly now. Old Noah, he's getting some bloody payback, the old Dodo Bird. Hang on a sec. He's back in again. Noah, can you hear me, mate? Are you there?
I can hear you. I'm not sure what's happening. I think it's my really dodgy camera, and it keeps disconnecting. It might do it again. So
maybe it's the jersey.
I'm not sure about that. It's probably the jersey. I haven't worn the jersey before. No, but honestly, the NRLW, like Lachlan said, I feel like there's something missing. I do actually watch it from time to time. I especially love watching my Broncos play, but obviously not a great year this year for the Broncos. But it just feels like there's something missing. Obviously, I think when we put it on our podcast, we even said we have nothing against women's sports. We actually enjoy like WBBL and other women's sports as such. But like, I'm not sure. There's just something missing in the game. And I can't put my finger on it.
No, that's all right. Like,
can I just say,
yeah, go on, Lockie.
The conversion kicking is another level of shit I have ever seen in sport.
Strike me pink.
I don't know if they need to go to under 12s and kick it from in front or what, but if you're going to get fans, the quality needs to be up there as well. You're not going to attract fans. It's like in the AFLW, there was a game last round. It was 97-1, GWS versus someone. You're not going to get fans if they're going to see those scorelines and that quality of sport. The NRL, people tune in every week, every game, because they know there's going to be a contest. They know they're going to show up. They know that they're not saying NRLW not talented. No way. I'm just saying the quality compared to other WBBL and other women's sports like the women's soccer team and all that for Australia. You got the likes of Sam Kerr and all that. I don't know. NRLW and AFLW, it doesn't bring the excitement to a lot of people.
All right. No, that's fair enough, dude.
Well,
That's
can I
your
also say
opinion.
something though?
Go for it.
NRLW, as much as we're bashing them, like I have a lot of favorites in the NRLW. I mean, especially from the Roosters. I'm a huge fan of Jessica Sturgis, Isabella Kelly, all those like rep players and all that ADC. You know, they do such a great job for their teams. They're great players individually. So, you know, as much as there's a lot of negatives to talk about, there's a lot of positives, and the competition is getting better slowly. And with teams expanding, I'm pretty sure fans will come all across.
Yes, definitely. Well, in any event, Knights and Eels are playing this weekend. Lockie's going for the Knights. Noah, mate, who are you tipping, Knights or Eels this weekend, mate?
Well, my head says that Knights should win this, but I really want Eels to win. I'm not sure if it's just because Knights took Millie Boyle and Tamika Upton from us, but I don't know. I really want to go. I really want to go the Eels, and I'll probably end up tipping the Eels. I only really tip who I end up going for. I'm not sure. It's just even if it's like Broncos. I always tip Broncos no matter what. It's just a thing. But yeah, I'm going to tip the Eels. I'm not too sure they'll win. I think Knights have a better chance, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll definitely be tuning into the NRLW Grand Final, though. I mean, it's footy's footy, no matter what.
Yeah, Grand Final day, mate. Faraz, who are you tipping this weekend?
Well, I think the main thing as well coming from this game is regardless who wins, it's a win-win for the NRLW because there's going to be a new winner, and both teams are unexpected. So this makes this Grand Final even more entertaining. Like like Noah said, that the Knights should win this easily. But if you look at last week, everyone said that the Roosters should have easily wiped away the Parramatta Eels. So anything can happen. If you just bring out the best, anything can happen. Look, but in saying all that, I'm going to go for the Newcastle Knights, but I'm going to go in a tie affair. I'm going to go Knights by 6. I think Tamika Upton's going to have a big game once again. She's easy. For me, she's easily the best player in the game right now as we speak. As a Broncos fan, gutted to lose her as well.
I honestly don't think, like, in the NRLW and the Queensland Premiership Cup, I don't think she's lost a game all year, man. She is just that good, mate. She's got a great aura about her at the moment. Now, we'll move into the main event this weekend. Obviously, it is Penrith Panthers versus Parramatta Eels. Noah, starting with you, man, the Penrith Panthers, $1.40 odd or $1.35-ish, and the Parramatta Eels, $3.10. Do you think that's a fair market, mate, coming into this weekend?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to be honest. I think Penrith should be favourites, but I feel that price I feel like Parramatta are too much outsiders there. I feel like it's a lot closer. It'll be a lot closer than people expect. I mean, they always have close battles. I feel like if it was Parramatta at like $2.50 or less like that, I think maybe it'd make more sense. But no, I think that's unfair odds to Parramatta. I still think Penrith win, but it seems unfair.
Faraz, mate, she's very enticing odds there, mate, to take Eels at $3.10. Do you agree with that, though?
Well, first of all, just before I go on to say my tip, National Sports Leader has said in the comments that Faraz will always tip against the Eels no matter what. I think that's a bit unfair just because, like, I've tipped the Knights women's side to win the game. I've tipped Parramatta most of the time this year. They were in my grand final personally, so, like, whether I tip the Panthers or not, it doesn't mean that I don't want the Eels to win or nothing. It's nothing against Parramatta, mate. It's just that, like, who I feel is going to win the game. So
I know.
He's just a hater for us. He's just a hater, man.
Yeah. But I really like the odds. You know, like everyone's saying the Panthers are unbeatable. This is their grand final to lose. I think if there's one team that can knock them off, I think it's the Parramatta Eels. I really like those odds. It's really juicy to take as well at $3.10. I think it's definitely worth the value.
Lockie, mate, do you see Parramatta Eels coming in a little bit closer towards Sunday?
Well, I think at the moment it helps because probably the whole Cowboys fan base threw $10 on Penrith after the other weekend. So I'd say that's what made the odds a lot better. But I think Para will come in closer. I think everyone's just jumping on Penrith because of the history, because of how they've been playing. But people can't write Eels off in this one. No. Eels are in this until the 80th minute. Until that final whistle goes, the game is not over. With the likes of Mitch Moses, after the week he's just had, the passing of a family member, making a grand final, having his first child, he's going to be, the adrenaline will already be pumping in him. He'll be showing up. Maybe throw another forward pass, who knows. Gutho will show up again. Noah, can you stop laughing, mate?
No, okay, I'm sorry. I need to be more professional.
Gutho, he'll show up. Isaiah Papali'i, Sean Lane, incredible. Sivo on Charlie, I'm not going to say the middle word, Staines. I will be going for Eels, but I think Penrith will win. But I think the odds at the moment are fair, but I think they'll tighten up.
That's something that you just touched on there that I really wanted to ask you too, that Mitchell Moses, he obviously had all that happen to him throughout the week last week. Kicked 2 balls out on the full. He threw that forward pass and did, I think he made another error or so as well, mate. So you really do anticipate Moses to come out all guns blazing this weekend, Lockie?
Well, I think if Moses doesn't, I don't think Eels have any chance. I think Moses is that guy that the Eels, they don't rely on him, but it feels like that guy like the Rabbitohs. If Latrell doesn't fire, it feels like the Rabbitohs don't fire. I feel like everything just relies around the Eels and their structures and everything. Like, if he goes down 10 minutes in with a HIA, I would say Penrith win it easy. I just think Moses has that much influence on that team. He's got a fire on Sunday, or I think it's going to be curtains closed.
Now, Noah, I want to ask you a question, mate, and Dylan Brown. Now, I think Dylan Brown, for most part last weekend against North Queensland. He was incredibly quiet the week before against the Canberra Raiders. He was absolutely sensational. The week before against Penrith Panthers, he was dead. He was absolutely silent as all buggery. So his season, much like the Parramatta Eels, has been very, very wavy. Dylan Brown, mate, are you anticipating him to finally break them shackles in a big game and actually deliver? Or do you sort of feel like he might have the bright lights frighten him again?
I have a feeling like flat track bully is probably not the right word to use for him, for his performances. But I think I'm not too sure. I don't think he has enough. I think he's too young and inexperienced to give it to Penrith. I don't think he'll have enough to give it to Penrith. But
Wow.
I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. I really want to see a close game. But I really feel like Penrith could put 13 plus on Para, or I'd see Para winning it close. But yeah, I just think like Lockie said, Moses needs to be firing. I think Dylan Brown needs to also be there with Moses. So yeah, I hope he does, but I'm not too sure. I think he may not stand up in the game.
I think another key man flying under the radar is Reid Marnie. I think with the Penrith forwards, their middles have to be defending all night. I think Reid Marnie he's got to have a huge night. He's got to have one of his best of his career on Sunday, if not his best. In attack, because if he makes an error, Penrith are going to suffocate him and jump on him. And if he makes an error in defence, Penrith are going to run straight through him. So he's sort of the key in the middle, but Moses, Gutho, and Reid Marnie would be my three for Sunday.
Also, could we quickly get a round of applause, because my mic is not shut off for 10 minutes. So finally, something's fixed up there. I'm not sure what was going on. It's happened a few times in the podcast as well.
Did you pay your phone bill finally?
Pay my phone. I probably just need to get a better camera, to be completely honest. But yeah.
No, things have been smooth, man. Things have been smooth. Hopefully, touch wood, you haven't bloody jinxed yourself just then, mate. But it's all good. Now, Faraz, man, starting with you, and it was something that I just touched on with Jack and Victoria just then. The interchange bench, Nathan Brown, Jacob Arthur, Faraz, man. You've got Tom Opacek and you've got Makahisi Makato and Bryce Cartwright named on the reserves. I really do want to get your opinion as well, Lockie and Noah. But starting with you, Faraz, mate, how do you think about Brad Arthur? How do you think Brad Arthur's gone about his interchange bench, mate? Do you agree, disagree?
Well, but it's a really interesting one. I still don't get why Jacob Arthur is getting picked, and that's not me hating on him. I just feel it's a bit of a weird rotation. I think Nathan Brown, he hasn't played for 12 weeks as well, so he's coming back to the side. So Nathan Brown's coming as probably a utility or something like that. So I don't know what his role is. I would have gone for someone like Bryce Cartwright, who's versatile, who can play those like extra positions, who can play extra minutes, who can actually have an impact. So, look, we've been criticizing the bench the whole final series, but they're in a prelim now, so they've done pretty well to be there. But I just think against the Panthers, I don't think it's gonna work well. Honestly, I think the bench is gonna play a huge part as well, because the Panthers bench, they've got the likes of Mitch Kenny, Scott Sorensen. Sorensen for me is really underrated here. He has his hard carries coming onto the bench as well. So I think the bench will have. I said this last week on Nick's stream. The bench is going to have a huge shot on who wins this game, especially if it comes down to like the last 20 minutes where the scores are tied. So, yeah.
Okay, Lockie, mate, what's your opinion on the interchange bench, man?
I think I'll put this down to of who he wants and not who he needs. I don't think if I was a player who's been playing for the last 12 weeks and Nathan Brown instantly gets a grand final spot, I would be chucking an absolute tantrum, and I would do a bloody Payne Haas and ask for more money and leave. I think that's ridiculous that Nathan Brown gets put in instantly. I think other players definitely are there in the reserves that are definitely should get that spot. And Jacob Arthur, that's a waste of interchange. He's basically playing a 16-man team. What's the point? Like
against the best team of the past 3 years.
Yeah, you're in a grand final against the best team, of the last 3 years. You've got, as much as, there might be an injury, but in a grand final, you find ways around injuries. It's just what you have to do. You need the 17 men for a grand final. You can't be taking shortcuts because My bet is Sunday it's going to bite them in the bum, and Penrith are going to put it on them.
Oh, yo, and Noah, bro, do you, Noah, man, is Nathan Brown going to have a brain snap this weekend just through a sensory overload, or what do you anticipate happening?
Well, someone pointed this out to me today. Can't remember where, but I believe I'm not going to say Nathan Brown actually did this. I'm not going to accuse him of anything, but apparently, I talked to the boys about this before the stream as well. Apparently, if you do illegal substances, you actually have to sit out 12 weeks, but you can still play reserve grade, and the NRL won't announce that you've done it. And he's been out 12 weeks exactly. So I'm not. I find it a bit coincidental. I'm not blaming anything on it. I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying that's a bit coincidental that he's been out for 12 weeks, playing reserve grade, not been in the team, and all of a sudden gets back in the grand final without. He hasn't even been. I don't think he's been that good in reserve grade either. So, yeah, not accusing him of anything, but I find that a bit of a coincidence. But yeah, I honestly think he'll have a big impact. I'm a fan of how hard he runs and how far back he'll go to take the carries. But yeah, I think but like the other two have said, the bench is it's a bit weird. Like, why play? Like, I get having someone versatile for injuries who could play, but who would still come on and play positions. Jake Arthur's not going to come on if Moses or Brown doesn't get injured. So I think probably could have put Makatoa there in Jake Arthur's place, and probably could have taken off Nathan Brown, put back in Bryce Cartwright. But yeah, I mean, it's Brad Arthur's choice, but I think it's a stupid choice.
Lockie, mate. So we're going to have Isaiah Papali'i and Viliami Kikau come head-to-head this weekend. That's going to be such a massive contest. Who do you see getting the better of that one-on-one matchup, man?
You've got to say Papali'i. He's much more consistent. Kikau's more... he either shows up in the big moments or he goes missing and he's got a bloody police warrant for a search warrant on him. He's there or he's not. That's one thing with Kikau. And he I don't know. Papali'i is a back rower who shows up in every moment, no matter defense or attack. He reminds me of Matt Gillette. Shows up in defense every bloody tackle, every minute. Takes every hard run out of the 20. He's always backing up. He's not walking back through the ruck to get fit back on side. He's there. He's there with Gutho. He's there with Reed. He's there with Moses. And he shows up. He would be averaging ridiculous meters this year. But I also got question marks on that man because I'm not real happy. Sign a contract. You got to honor it, mate.
Yep.
Yeah, true, dude. True. Faraz, mate, starting with you, dude. The forward pack battle: James Fisher-Harrison, Moses Leota versus Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo. If both these sides are at their best, who do you see getting the better of the handle of this situation this weekend, mate?
Well, you can arguably say that Parramatta have the best forward pack on paper, but I think you got to say Penrith because they're just much more consistent. But like when you say at their best, like on their day when they're playing their best top footy, I think Parramatta, geez, they are hard to stop. We haven't even talked about a bloke called Sean Lane, for example. I mean, that guy close to the line, his offloading, it's just insane. He's got under the radar, I feel. So look, there's a lot of big name players there in the forward pack. Fisher has Paulo, like you said, probably arguably the two best props in the game right now, alongside Tarpon and Payne Haas. Even someone like Isaiah Yeo, probably the best 30 in the game as well. So there's a lot of interesting battles around here. It's hard to really split them up.
Yeah, true, dude. No, man, what are some of the key matchups for you this weekend as well? Like Dylan Edwards versus Clint Gutherson, man. Who do you reckon is going to get on top there?
Well, I think there's just so many good key matchups. It's really hard to pick. I mean, like you said, Clint Gutherson versus Dylan Edwards. You got Dylan Brown versus Jerome Luai, Mitchell Moses versus Nathan Cleary, Api Coruscant versus Reed Money. And that's just the spine. You've got great forward packs as well. For me, the key matchup, it's a bit of a blend one. Obviously, this is going to be everyone's, but I think Nathan Cleary versus Mitch Moses that has to be the key matchup for a lot of people. I think because. I mean, you can't win a game without your halfback firing, and I think both of them will be. So I think it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it.
Do you think? What do you guys reckon? Do you reckon Wonga Blake is going to drop a ball this weekend? And that's not me trying to be funny, but like, do you think he's actually going to drop a ball this weekend? And Nathan Cleary is going to target him?
Yeah, after the first game, definitely.
For sure, man.
I think
Go on, Fraser.
I think
Sorry.
you have a good game, but I definitely think Nathan Cleary will be under his skin, especially from the first week as well. So Nathan Cleary knows what he's doing. So I think he'll target Walker Blake, but I think Walker Blake this time will be much better for it. But don't be surprised if he drops a few. Just saying.
Yo, a few. Oh my god. Lucky?
A few in a grand final, but yeah.
If I was Penrith, this has to be a tactic. It's not. It shouldn't just be a thing that it should happen every now and then. I think all night. Put the ball up for him. There's higher stakes for this game than there was in the last game, and he dropped who knows how many. Yeah. He's going to be under more pressure. He's going to be more nervous this game. His palms are going to be sweaty. He's like, I think Cleary has to put him up all game. No matter, and get the pressure on him. Imagine Kikau or Liam Martin, whoever's on that edge, just storm at him all night under the high ball.
Yo, all right. So, well, Clive Churchill medalist, anytime try scorer, scoreline. Starting with you, Noah. What do you reckon, mate?
Clive Churchill medalist. Well, obviously, since I'm going Panthers, I mean, we've seen people win it from the other team before, like Jack Whiten did in 2019. But I reckon Nathan Cleary back to back, Clive Churchill medalist. I don't know. It's just the gut feeling. I reckon I'm going to go an exact score of 26-12. I feel like Penrith do win this 14 points. I know that's probably not the type of game a lot of people want to see, but I mean, that's what I feel like is going to end up happening. Anytime try scorer, I think. I have a feeling that maybe Brian Toto is going to get over. I haven't backed him all year. Like most of the year, I haven't picked him because he seems like an obvious choice. But I think Brian Toto to go over.
What about yourself, Faraz?
I'll say this though. Okay, if the Panthers are going to win it on Sunday, I think Clive Churchill will be Isaiah Yeo. And if Parramatta do end up getting the chocolates, I think I'm going to go. I don't know if this is really a smoky, but I think Marnie's going to get Clive Churchill, so I'm just putting it out there. But who I think is going to win, I actually wanted to go Parramatta, but I wanted to go bold and big in a grand final. But looking at that bench, I just can't see it troubling the Panthers. I think the Panthers will just win. It will be a tight game. This could even go to golden point. It literally has the potential to be anything. So, but I'm going to go the Panthers 20 points to 14. I don't think it will be too much of a high scoring game. I think it'll be grit. I think there will be a lot of defense involved. I think Panthers win 20 points to 14. Anytime try scorer, I'm going to go Brian Toto. He always seems to find the line. And from Parramatta, I'm going to go Marcus Sevo. Can't go past the man.
Yo, dude. And look at yourself, mate.
I'm going to go Dylan Edwards to win the award for the game. This man, if it wasn't for the big names, James Tedesco, Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trbojevic, he would win the Dally M fullback of the year every year. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does. His fitness is probably nearly the best in the comp. He's probably the most underrated player in the comp. For me, he's just as big as an influence as Nathan Cleary. If you don't have Dylan Edwards, you sort of don't have that go forward for Penrith Panthers.
Yep.
So for me, he'll win the medal. We'll go. I don't think Eels are going to show up for this one, to be honest. I think they've done their dash. I don't know. I'm going to go 28-8 Penrith. I'm going to go a Stephen Crichton double.
Oh, Crichton double. Nice. Okay. All right. Nice. And he'd be lining up against Marcus Sevo and Bailey Simonson, I suspect. That's a fair shout, actually. That's a good shout. But as I said before, I'm going to go Moses Leota as an anytime try scorer. I'm going to go a 6-point margin, something akin to 18 points to 12, Penrith Panthers way, and Clive Churchill medalist. If Penrith do win it, I'm with you, Lockie. Dylan Edwards, bro, is going to have an absolutely sensational contest. Final Siren podcast, guys. Like, thank you so much for
also, can I just say one more thing? Just before
man.
We conclude things. No one's really talking about this a lot, but as we know, Parramatta on a 36-year drought right now as we speak, and this is probably the best chance in a while for a long time. I think the biggest Panthers fans will probably be the Canberra Raiders because I think after the Eels, they've got the second longest drought. So I think that Raiders don't want to become in that sort of talking point as well. So I think they'll kind of be going for the Panthers to win this as well.
All right, you wanted to bring up the Canberra Raiders, no worries. All right, then. Well, that's it. She's been a 2-hour bloody live stream on the dot. I'm going to go get some bloody dinner. Last regular season, in-season stream of the season as well. So thank you so much for the support this year. Please go and check out the Final Siren podcast. Links to the description. The links will be in the description box below in a couple of minutes' time at the conclusion of this stream. And thank you so much for your patience. Lockie, Noah, and Perez, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Been a
Alrighty,
pleasure.
guys. Enjoy the weekend. Take care. Adios.
Yeah.